The sound of a man screaming on stage, his voice cracking with an almost religious fervor, became an anthem for an era of crypto madness. Hey, 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 BitConnect. That unhinged, joyous roar, echoed by a frenzied crowd, wasn't just a moment of bizarre internet fame. It was the soundtrack to one of the biggest financial crimes in cryptocurrency history. Behind the laughter, the memes, and the sheer spectacle of Carlos Matos, a shadow was growing. A colossal pyramid scheme poised to collapse and obliterate the fortunes of believers worldwide. This is the story of how a voice full of hope became the siren song of a scam, and how the dream of digital gold turned into a global nightmare. It all began with a promise too good to be true, which, in the world of high-risk investing, is often the most seductive kind. BitConnect emerged in 2016, presenting itself not just as another cryptocurrency, but as a revolutionary financial ecosystem. Its core offering was a lending platform, a black box powered by a supposed volatility trading bot. The pitch was simple and intoxicatingly powerful. Lend them your Bitcoin, and in return, receive daily interest payments that could average 1% per day. Do the math, and that's a potential annual return of over 3,700%. It was a siren's call to anyone who had missed the early Bitcoin boat. A promise of a second chance at life-changing wealth, delivered daily, directly into your digital wallet. This promise ignited a global fever. The BitConnect platform wasn't just a website, it was a movement. Its tendrils spread like wildfire through social media, especially on YouTube. A new breed of influencer emerged, their channels filled with slickly produced videos showcasing burgeoning account balances. They filmed themselves logging into their BitConnect dashboards where the numbers just kept going up. They flaunted lavish lifestyles, new cars, luxury apartments, exotic vacations, all seemingly funded by this magical money-making machine. They weren't just investors, they were evangelists, preaching the gospel of BitConnect to their millions of subscribers. Their referral links became golden tickets, creating a multi-level marketing structure that rewarded them handsomely for every new soul they brought into the fold. This army of promoters created a powerful, self-perpetuating hype cycle. The more people who joined, the more the price of BitConnect's native token, BCC, soared, and the more proof there was that the system worked. The spectacle reached its zenith at lavish, cult-like promotional events. In October 2017, in Pattaya, Thailand, the now infamous ceremony unfolded. This is where Carlos Matos, an investor from New York, took the stage. His unscripted, wildly passionate testimonial punctuated by his iconic "Wassa, Wassa, Wassa, BitConnect" chant became an instant internet sensation. He declared with tears in his eyes how his wife had initially thought he was crazy for investing, but now she is saying, "Oh my God, this is real." He wasn't a founder or a high-level executive. He was, supposedly, just a regular guy, a believer whose faith had been rewarded. His performance, raw and utterly convincing, was the perfect marketing tool. It encapsulated the emotional core of the BitConnect promise. Financial freedom was not just possible, but it was happening right now, to people just like you. To the outside world, it was a meme. To those inside, it was a confirmation of their faith. But behind the roaring crowds and the skyrocketing token prices, the clock was ticking. Financial regulators and skeptical veterans of the crypto space had been sounding the alarm for months. They pointed out the obvious red flags, the impossibly high consistent returns, the opaque nature of the trading bot, and the classic pyramid structure that heavily incentivized recruitment. In January 2018, the house of cards finally came crashing down. Desist orders from regulators in Texas and North Carolina proved to be the fatal blow. The platform abruptly announced it was shutting down its lending and exchange operations. The BCC token, which had peaked at nearly $500, plummeted over 90% in a matter of hours, becoming virtually worthless overnight. The fallout was catastrophic. In the blink of an eye, a market cap that had once exceeded $2.4 billion evaporated into thin air. The vibrant online communities that had celebrated their daily profits were transformed into digital graveyards of loss and despair. Thousands of personal stories began to surface, tales of life savings wiped out, retirement funds decimated, and families torn apart. People had mortgaged their homes, taken out loans, and poured every last penny they had into the dream that BitConnect sold them. The laughter that had echoed from the stage with Carlos Matos now sounded like a cruel mockery. The digital gold rush had ended, leaving a trail of financial devastation and shattered lives across the globe. In the aftermath of the collapse, the search for justice began, morphing into a complex international manhunt. The masterminds behind BitConnect, who had meticulously hidden their identities behind a veil of corporate anonymity, are now the targets of major law enforcement agencies. The FBI in the United States and specialized economic crime units in India, where much of the platform's development and leadership was based, launched parallel investigations. They began to unravel a sophisticated web of shell companies, offshore accounts, and money laundering operations designed to obscure the flow of billions of dollars stolen from investors. The challenge was immense. The suspects were scattered across continents, from Asia to Europe to the Americas. Key figures started to emerge from the shadows. The alleged founder, an Indian man named Satish Kumbani, became the subject of an Interpol red notice, effectively making him a globally wanted fugitive. Other high-level promoters and national heads of the operation were arrested in coordinated raids. The legal dragnet also closed in on the American promoters, the very YouTubers who had served as the public face of the scam. Glenn Arcaro, the top U.S. promoter, pleaded guilty, admitting to earning over $24 million from his referral commission pyramid. The investigations revealed the cold, calculated reality behind the hype. There was no revolutionary trading bot. The entire operation was a textbook Ponzi scheme, where money from new investors was simply used to pay the profits of earlier ones, all while the founders siphoned off a fortune. Analyzing the BitConnect phenomenon reveals a dark and fascinating aspect of human psychology, a condition one might call profit addiction. Early investors who saw their account balances multiply day after day weren't just passive beneficiaries. They experienced a powerful, intoxicating rush. This daily dose of positive reinforcement, the tangible evidence of making it, became a drug. It created a state of cognitive dissonance where all warning signs were ignored, and any criticism was dismissed as FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This addiction was the engine that drove the scheme's exponential growth. It transformed victims into accomplices, often unknowingly. Fueled by their own success and a desire to see their investment continue to grow, these believers became the most fervent evangelists. They weren't necessarily malicious. They genuinely believed they had found the secret to wealth and wanted to share it. Their testimonials, like that of Carlos Matos, were so powerful because they were authentic expressions of this belief. They created a community of faith, a tribe bound together by shared success and a common enemy, the skeptics. This dynamic explains why so many people ignored the blatant red flags. They weren't just investing money, they were investing their identity, their hopes, and their trust in a community that validated their decisions. When the system required new money to survive, this army of addicted believers became its most effective recruiters, perpetuating the cycle, and pulling countless others into the vortex before its inevitable, devastating collapse. The legacy of BitConnect serves as a stark and enduring cautionary tale for the digital age. It's a story not just about a financial scam, but about the power of hope, the danger of greed, and the infectious nature of mass delusion in the internet era. The infamous cry of "hey, hey, hey" now echoes with a different meaning. It's no longer a sound of joyous, if misguided, celebration. It is the sound of a warning, a reminder of how easily the promise of a golden future can be twisted into a weapon of mass financial destruction. And how in the wild west of the digital frontier, the loudest voice in the room isn't always telling the truth.